So we've been covering how these journalists are doing clickbaits, right? Where they
Yeah.
basically put up all these thumbnails and say these things. Like the other day, I heard you cover Katrina, and you see me in the chat like, shit. Well, I'm not saying this, but
Right.
this, you know.
Right. Right.
And it's like, yo, you know that people are gonna take your sound bites and some of those things that you say, right?
Well, I'm gonna tell you one thing. I was watching this Michael Cox video.
Yeah, that's funny. Hold on, hold on. You call him Michael Cox too, cause so does JP. It's Matthew Cox.
Okay, it's Matthew Cox. I was watching this Matthew Cox video, right? And he had this girl on there. And this girl, I was listening to her and she was like, "Yeah, it sounded, I swear to God, it sounded exactly. I wish you can pull the video. This girl sounded exactly like me, like she read Cartel wise
Oh shit.
from when I grew up. I got pregnant at 14, had my baby at 15, worked in Dunkin' Donuts, was around this drug infested,
She
gang
took the
infested
life rights,
neighborhood.
Val. She got the life rights.
When I'm telling you, it's like she read my story and I'm like, and I'm thinking like, I know like there's a lot of women that have gone through the same shit that I've gone through. But to be so specific and it's like she almost read it. My first chapter in my book, I was like, wait a minute, like I cannot. And the thing is that there's no fact checking. And I told Jay, I was like so frustrated. I'm like, Jay, I should come out with a podcast and I could just start putting people on blast. Like, come on, let's just put it out there like what it
She wants to
is.
be
And let's
what's his name? 1090. Yeah.
I swear, I just want to fact check because real journalism, I'm gonna tell you, you can't like if you're gonna talk to somebody when it comes to the Sun Times or to the Tribune, like they have to fact check.
They fact check me
Can't,
all
they
day.
fact check everything. You can't just say stuff just because you think that or that's your opinion or that's your perspective or your point of view. You can't do that. Like that's not real journalism. So when you hear on social media that people are just saying all these things, like it bothers me.
They're self-admitted that they don't fact check, and they're just letting somebody come up there and tell a story. I
But
mean,
guess what? I understand that too though because how are you going to sit there if you have guests coming on, right? How are you going to sit there and argue with them or tell them that they're not telling the truth? No one's going to want to come on your show and they're not going to want to be interviewed if you're going to sit there and put them on blast. So I get it.
that's why they don't come here. Cause I'll be like, I don't know. That sounds like some bullshit.
Yeah, it would limit your your guess. I was working on a LA Times story right now based on my life, and it's like anything I say has to be fact checked. Which to me, it's all good, right? Because I kid you not, especially when it comes to my past life, like I realized more than ever. Like I don't have to make shit up. People could say all kinds of things about me. The first thing they're gonna say snitch, but one thing they're not gonna say is I'm full of shit. I've been talking about Mencho when he was alive. So people would be like, "Oh, now he's dead." Nah, I've been saying that shit when he was alive. I've been saying shit since I walked out the door. I was saying that shit when I started cooperating. I didn't leave no one behind, and I'm gonna be able to keep it real about that. And I say it not because look, people were like, "Oh, he's proud to be a snitch." Like, no, it's something that I did, and I take responsibility for it. And I think that's hard for people to kind of understand. Like, oh shit, he is admitting that. Oh, he's a super rat. All right, bro. It's just that you know what? There's always gonna be an excuse. I do want to point something out. I can't leave my man out, Ed Calderon. Okay, I know him. Respects to him. Okay. When when we talk, I'm gonna tell you this is based on something I live, something that I know, or I'm gonna tell you this is my opinion. My thought was that the guests on Luis Chaparro are full of shit, and I tell you why. So I see Ed Calderon, does the interview, and I think you saw this as well. And he says, "What if he's not dead?"
If was the fifth, we'd all be drunk.
Yeah, and Mentor's not dead. There's a possibility he's not dead. And the way he says it, it's like he's not. There's the other side of it. Like, bro, are you fucking kidding me?
Drama.
You're looking for that because you want to create that stupid narrative for what? And here's the thing. Either I don't know what he's selling because I don't know if he's selling anything. But and then I ask Shy all the time. I'm gonna keep it real, Shy. Let's talk about this. I'm like, bro, is that me? Like, is that me that I'm so like I would just want to hear myself talk and hear myself comment and became this narcissist that is like, oh, if I say this, I'm gonna sound cool. I'm gonna get all these views, because I'm bringing up this conspiracy theory.
And not only that, Jay, come on, like you don't come with no conspiracy. You come with real facts of shit that you've
Yeah,
been through, shit that you lived.
I never heard him say a what if. What if? The motherfucker had three
What
dragons.
if Tupac is alive? What if Elvis is alive?
I
What
never
if?
Yeah,
heard
but you
that.
know
Come
what?
on.
We're learning, okay? We're seeing it. They're showing us what it takes to get clicks, what it takes to get subscribers, what it takes to get people talking. Once I do jump out there, and I am going to jump out there, hopefully my wife will join me. Hopefully we'll be able to work on a project together. But once I do jump out there, I'm going to put everyone on blast. I'm going to go back to Johnny and be like, hey, remember you said this, and said that? If you ask me questions, I should be able to ask you questions, you know? Because Johnny one time called me and said I was, basically said I was full of shit. That he could not see, he said Chapo's really a worker because anytime, Chapo had to get on the phone with the Flores twins, that tells you he's not at that level. Like, are you stupid? In the same show, he said that Chapios were the strongest
Right,
drug lords ever.
right.
Think about how stupid that sounds like. And when the same book you say that, and then you talk about his sons being stronger than, so it's like it doesn't even make sense. But I feel like I want to be able to put people on blast, and I think Shy for real, like you're going through the hard work, but I do think the tides are gonna change and they're gonna turn.
We just watched his documentary when he's saying like when we like the bullshit stories about the Meeches and the Terrys. We just watched his documentary and I feel like they just pulled it straight out the book. And then they're talking about, yeah, we were in Mexico, we were out there 3 weeks, but we didn't know where we were at. We didn't know who we were with. Like, wait, how are you somewhere? Like you can't ask me a question, Shy, like, hey Val, what you were talking about in your book that you were here, where were you? And if I can't give you a straight answer, you know I'm full of shit. If I can't tell you exactly where I was and who I was with, then you that right there tells you like you full of shit. You know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing in my life like that I can't speak about and say firsthand, like this is who the people I was with, this who I was around, this is how Mental looked, this is what stood out to me, this is what I got from him, this was our conversation we had. Like you can't tell me about the Chapillos and me not say this is when they came to my house and this is the car they drove up in. Like I'm gonna give you vivid memories of exactly what it was because you can't make up a lie. Like it is what it is. It's gonna be the same story every single time. You can't, you know. But it's just weird to me when you hear them talking about, yeah, I was in Mexico, I was with the plug, I was out there 3 weeks. I don't know what part of Mexico we were in. I don't know who we were with. I don't know their names. Like, come on. We gave millions of dollars. We gave them millions of dollars of jewelry, blah, blah, blah. Come on, bro.
Be honest with you, cops believe the bullshit now. Now it's like I'm arguing with cops. Like, bro, that's not the way it is. Shit, like what P says, P be so mad and P like, bro, everyone's so full of shit that now the real shit, it's like now we're full of shit. You
It's
get me?
devalued, yeah.
It's crazy because these journalists say they they're supposed to be putting the word out, but it almost seems like, oh, the gore stuff, they don't talk about that no more, right? That's not important enough, they fall into the trap that everyone else. Why? Because everything's catered to the viewer. The viewer wants the fake shit, the viewer wants the make believe shit, whatever they want to hear. They want the Hollywood shit, and that's what everyone's gonna cater to. I'm friends with Matthew Cox. I'm friend with Johnny Mitchell, okay? But and I'm friends with a bunch of other, Ian Bick and a bunch of other, big YouTubers. Here's the difference. I feel like this is like I could be a friend, which I know it's a business, but one thing I'm not gonna do, and Shy, you know this, bro. I'm not gonna be fake, though. You call me out sometimes. You be like, Jay, stop, don't do that. Don't ruin my show. Don't. And I'm like, yeah, I keep it real. Like I get it. But one thing I'm not gonna do is be fake or not speak my mind. Where I'm gonna be like, but once I get on this show, where I feel like I'm gonna be able to be like, yo, let me go back to some of the shit. Like I should be able to have my opinions just like everyone else does. You're the one that said that you're the connect because you sold some weed, and because of your journalism and because you studied it, you consider yourself in the back of your mind to be
Even like there's documentaries. I think when I came home, the first probably documentary I seen was Cocaine Quarterback, right? And when I seen that documentary, I was like, this is crazy. Like they're telling the story. He's saying that he's cocaine quarterback, but even in the documentary, it says he was never the quarterback. He
If
basically
you're not even the quarterback, if I can't trust you to be the
you're
quarterback, what
you're
the
not even the
fuck?
quarterback, okay? Even though not only that, Owen, it was what
Owen Hansen.
Owen Hansen. He was not even the quarterback. He's not even a quarterback. So that's the name of your documentary. That right there tells us right now, like the whole documentary is like fabricated, right? And then he talks about that he was making all this money, but then he's not saying it's US dollars, he's saying it's money, Australian money. So like he's talking in the millions. And when I sit there and I chat it and I'm like, okay, what is it equal to in US dollars? It's like a quarter of a million, but yet you're talking millions, right? And then after that, he's saying how like
He
he
charges in.
is like working with the cartel, the little cartel, but he's not going to tell you who he's working with. Like, come on now. It's like you can't like if you're gonna say, you can't just say whatever you're gonna say. And it's weird to me that usually in a documentary they do at some point need to fact check. You can't just say shit. And so like to me that was like bizarre
Yeah,
that
if you're
he's
not the
sitting there.
quarterback, I can't believe shit else
You're
that
not
you
the
got to say,
quarterback. You
Papa.
didn't work with the Sinaloa cartel because you can't tell us who you were working with when you should be able to have a
He
name.
said he was
His
working
name
with the
was
boss.
Juan.
So the other day I showed you a clip where he's on News Nation and he says, I would go to Guadalajara, I see bodies hanging off hanging off the bridges. Like really in Guadalajara?
Shy. I lived in Guadalajara. My kids were born in Guadalajara. I lived there for 5 years. Let me tell you, there was not one body hanging off a bridge.
I don't believe you, Val. I don't believe you. You saw bodies hanging everywhere. You're
That
lying.
was not
It,
happening, like
it
ever.
doesn't happen in cities like Guadalajara like that, bro. Like it's not Culiacan. It's like, and then he says I had six bodyguards. It was funny. Like when I would go, it was so dangerous that I had six bodyguards. And I'm thinking to myself, like, look,
I said,
like
Jay, he was more of a boss than you because where were your six bodyguards? Not only that, he was making $1 million. What was it, $1 million
he
a
said
day?
$1 million a day. He's
Come on. I said,
no,
Jay, yo, he was making more money than you.
yeah, he was making more
You
money. And
wasn't
he
making that Australian
a-
money,
and he
motherfucker.
was moving 50. I think he was moving like 10 keys at a time, and he was making more money. It's like I'm not out to expose anyone. I just feel like then they're gonna try to be that life, and they're gonna try to be like that, and it's gonna cost someone these fake dreams and of what they say it is. And I'm gonna tell you something, bro. They're not even about that life, and most of these dudes weren't. We could go back to the stories, but even like when we talk about Owen Hansen's, like he said, well, I had six Sicarios, right? And I'd be like, okay, Mr. Cartel expert, you know what six Sicarios will do for you in the middle of Guadalajara in CJNG birthplace?
Will you swing from a bridge?
You'll probably end up fucking hanging off a bridge. You get me? Like, are you fucking kidding me, bro? Like you stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just this is the nonsense.
When I moved to Mexico, I was just thrown into that narco culture. And that was something like foreign to me. I never lived that life. I never been around anyone that was on the level. Yeah, I was around people, but not at JMP's level. And I think to me, that was a different world. It was different for me to comprehend that, right? And because I lived in Mexico for 5 years, I had my kids there. I lived there. I was in that life. I was in Culiacan. I was in Sinaloa. I was in, I was around these people, the Menchos, the Chapillos, the Vicentes. I was around these people, that to me would became our normalcy. And it's like the puercas, all the bios, all these people, right? The Valencias, they used to come to my house. They were with my neighbor all day long. Like I was around these people. That's Edgar, right? Yeah. Edgar Valencia. Okay, like all these people. These are people that I would see on a daily basis, like in my house, eating with us, breaking bread. And it's like, I was in that world. And to me, it's like I seen what it was. And then you have these people that come out that are fraudsters, right? And that are talking about when they visited Mexico, or this is what they saw, bodies hanging from bridges and banners. And I'm sitting there like, wait, what? I lived there every day. I was out every day driving around. Like that's not what was there. But because they're watching these videos, and because, this is what they see, they're telling this like all these lies, and it bothers me. And I even told Jay, like, we need to do a podcast. Remember back in the day, they had this guy and he was exposing people that had fake Rolexes, and he called people out. And and I was like, Jay, we need to do a podcast. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like, we need to do a podcast and we need to just expose it. And Jay's like, nah, about like we ain't gonna do that. Like what's the point? And I'm like, it just bothers me. But when I'm watching Marshalls in my bed last night with Jay, and I'm like listening to like these stories, and they're white people, and they're like capitalizing on our story, and they're talking about Chapo and the cartel and the Sinaloa, and they're sitting there and they're telling our story. And I'm like, man, Jay, what is it? Is it because we're not white? Is it because we're not cocaine quarterback? We didn't go to, to USC? Like, what is it? You know what I'm
No,
saying?
I'm gonna tell you what it is. Even some of the shit, like, cause we're not fake. We were too real, too fast, and people gotta catch up. That's what I feel. Now we're having issues with the whole 50 Cent shit. You get me? He got tired of the fake shit, and now it affected our projects. You get me? And it's like it's just what it's became. Like,
Like
Oh, you're
watered
and
saying
down,
like with
right?
that BMF
Like
shit.
watered down.
yeah, with the BMF shit,
Like
and
watered
it's
down.
watered down. Here's the thing, and P has a, you say, well, I don't shut up about it because a part of me feel like I didn't want to fight that battle because people always ask. You see it on your comments. Look, Shy, you see, oh, these motherfuckers talk about real, but they were snitches. Like, bro, I almost snitch. I was real about being a snitch since the beginning. And you know what? And I think Batman for sure, like Batman.
For those that don't know,
Um,
Batman is Peter Flores, y'all,
see
aka Quality Control.
quality control. He has a real big issue, and sometimes he gets so mad, and he's like, "Yo, Jay, like honestly, like he just wants to move forward and just leave this shit alone." And says, "You know what? Fuck it, just charge it to the game. We'll take another loss. Everything's been, everyone's full of shit. Then now the people who are full of shit, they made their story so real. Then now the real shit is it doesn't sit well with people."
Pushed on the
And,
shelf.
yeah, and I told, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm bringing some family issues, and I'm gonna say this to Val, I'm gonna, say this to quality control Peter, is that that's what happens when you don't want to talk about it. That's what happens. Is your guys' fault for letting these people be able to, you get me, glamorize a fucking life and say all these fucking lies because I think that we would have settled this shit early on. They wouldn't be able to come up with this bullshit story. Now, there's some people that probably do have a lot of factual stories, right? That maybe are not like privy to me. Like maybe they're on lower levels and I don't know shit. You get
But
me?
be clear
Like
what you're
that's
talking about. What are you talking about? Are you talking about, creative movies
What?
and TV shit?
No, what
Or are
everything.
you
he's
talking
saying.
about the internet, motherfuckers just like, journalists talking
Both.
bullshit, criminals talking bullshit?
Both.
Mm.
No, but I think that what he's talking about too is that, like, me and Viv, for instance, right? Like there was a time where we didn't want to like come out, we didn't want to show our faces, we wanted to be in disguises, we wanted them to put on prosthetics on us, we didn't want to look like us, we didn't want people to know who we were. We were so, like I said earlier, like fear is a curse, right? We were so like living in this paranoia in our head where it was to the point where it became our reality. It was so real because we were so living in fear, and we were so scared of, like, because our husbands had cooperated, that we didn't know what that meant for us and our children, living out in the open and living out loud. And I think that now that it's became the norm, where now you have the Vicentios and you have all the, Maitos and the Chapillos, and you have all of them all cooperating, and it becoming a thing. Like now everybody's doing it, and it's to the point like, okay, maybe we should have been telling our story. Maybe we should
Mm.
have been put ourselves out there. Maybe we should have been, taking ownership of our story, so that way you can't have all these other people that are not really even involved in that life or even been a part of that life to even have the room or the space to even come out and tell their story.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
I hear you.
And now, too bad that you have some journalists that jump in and they want to hear themselves talk. They want to hear the story. You see, someone like Catalina. You see some of the shit she says. Like, stop. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't let the shit go. You get me? Because you wanna paint this fucking picture to get clicks. And some of the things even me being biased. Like I sent, we're supposed to cover a couple of things that she said about cooperators and how the United States negotiates with terrorists. Bro, like now you're getting your own personal judgment and you're supposed to not even be about that life where all you do is talk about change and innocent people and then you're mad about people actually like doing something about it. The day and age of social media, right? I think from here, looking out to the future, that it gives everyone the chance to have a platform, and it's too bad that we didn't take advantage of it.
Y'all feel like it's too late? Huh? Did you hear me?
I mean,
Or
I
you
don't know.
pondering? You pondering? You thinking?
I'm
Hold on.
pondering,
I hear
yeah.
ya. Boom, boom,
I'm
boom, boom.
pondering, bro, because listen, yeah, I will tell you something. What drives me crazy, I get some of these questions from law enforcement, and sometimes I be like, "Yo, I'm right here in front of you." You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Like, man, people watch too much Netflix. They watch too much, like,
What are you talking
like,
about? What they got to do with what I asked you?
I just feel like sometimes I feel like I don't know if I want to, like, I don't know, I want to, like, focus my life and energy in trying
Mm.
to prove people wrong.
Oh, okay.
But maybe I to think, I'm starting to think that maybe that's the only way that we do want to get a message across. We do want to, you know, have a good and positive impact, with our story. Maybe that's what we have to do.
The bottom line is your story stands alone. Your story doesn't stand at the mercy of having to expose some journalist or some criminal for lying on the internet. That doesn't need the negativity of having to expose anybody. That's just you taking your story and telling it yourself instead of letting anybody else embellish it.
And that's the truth because real recognizes real, right? And when you're telling the truth and when you're sitting there and you're being authentic and you're being true to yourself, I think that right there speaks volume.
Yeah, you're right about that. I just think that everyone's so caught up, just it being one sided. I could see it, but I feel like that's the avenue we have to take. Is like now we have to take what people believe is to be, the truth, and it's really like fake news, right? In order to kind of like let other people see the other side of it, right? I think I'm more worried about the fake, the fakeness of people and having them become my enemies than I did for some of the cartel members,
God
if you
damn.
understand. You know what I'm saying? Because once you put people on blast, and this is funny though, because there's a lot of people that I interact with that they know I know they're fake, right? I know that they push fake narratives, fake stories. Okay, sometimes I'm just like, okay, and I'll be like, all right, but I'm not, trying to be that judge, especially when some of the stories, fake stories,
Yeah,
interact
I
with
can't
my
argue with
story.
everybody in the comments. Sometimes I gotta throw a generic fucking response at them and keep it
Yeah,
moving.
but some of the story people be like, oh, what about this person? And especially on the other, in my world, and I feel like, man, I don't want that issue, but at the same time, it's like, I really have to think about this and see where we go, and a lot of times, we have Batman and my brother feels like it's a lost war. You get me? Us trying to do the right thing is never gonna work out because we don't fit that profile. But I think it's gonna come a time where people are gonna get tired of all these glamorous lives where everyone was the dude doing it, everyone was big time, everyone was a killer, everyone. It's gonna come a time where it's
Can we
gonna be
have a
like.
simpler time where everybody's not an assassin?
But I will tell you something. I'm sitting here thinking like, damn, us being a unicorn, like we're becoming more rare because we're the only ones, me and my brother, could say that we dealt with El Mencho, we dealt with El Chapo, El Mayo, and
Mm.
Arturo Beltran Leiva, and they're basically gone.
Off.
And I have that advantage even more than Vicentes or even some of the Chapo sons because guess what? They weren't allowed to have those relationships.
Do you think that this wave of fakeness is going to push people to look for the real shit, to really really search for it?
I do think, remember, because I'm at the end of the day, I'm a bit more of a businessman, right? Shy? And even I would tell you like the story about Drake. The reason why I went looking for someone like Drake, I was looking for a Nick Cannon type rapper. Because, I woke up one day like, yo, I'm tired of all these people being killers. You know what I'm saying? Killer rap. And I kind of saw that people were taking a little liking to Kanye West. And I feel like he was being too like lyrical when he was coming on. I said, damn, what if we find someone like a Nick Cannon? Just and I described him to a T, and that's when Gabi found Drake, and I always felt like, look, if everyone's eating, you go to a block and there's 10 restaurants of selling cheeseburgers, and there's a store opening. What are you gonna put there? Are you gonna put another cheeseburger place? Or you're gonna give them something different. And I do believe that there's gonna come a time where people are gonna get tired of this, especially with like even today. I feel like even the word cartel is being so oversaturated. It's starting to become like
Yeah, I had to respell it. Throw an extra L on that motherfucker.
I see one of those comments on your chat saying that the dramatization. Do I feel like it would have been over dramatized? And I think with 50 and us speaking about it, it's like one of the things that he was getting upset was that like you don't have to over dramatize this shit.
Right. No, that's how I feel. It's stranger than fiction. It writes itself.
So even the story, like I see the BMF documentary, I see those shows being on there. I see some of the shows like Ozark. Some of the stories are trying to get made. It's like, of course, it's gonna be based on, but it's like I think even for us, I think the stories was like, oh, it's too real, and it's just Hollywood for you. But who knows? I really tell Val that I think that she would be a great podcast host. I think she's real. I think she could be relatable to a lot of women who's been through those hard relationships, through been through trauma and abuse, and not only, and then the other side of what the beauty part of it when it comes to aesthetics, and what she wanted to be like, and then what is it for her to be like a mom, and then doing the prison stuff, and then being involved with narcissists and criminals and people like us. I think that and what's her life has became. I think that she has a good message. So I think that she
And she
would.
has the natural charisma to speak.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I don't have that either. I'm trying to get better at it, but she does, and she's intelligent, and I think she would have a great platform, especially just given the fact that even I see some of these YouTube hosts, and I look at the competition that's out there, and look, the most successful one. Let's face it. Nothing against race. I'm not
I
just
thought he
saying this.
called them hoes. He said hosts, y'all. I thought he
Hosts,
called them.
yeah. So
I said these YouTube hoes. I said, damn, Jay.
hosts,
What the
hosts,
fuck?
hosts. Same difference. No, but I see some of the competition out there. I'm like, look, a lot of these real successful podcast hosts. First of all, it's a men saturated world, right? But the women side of it, a lot of them are Caucasian, right? Most of them successful when they're Caucasian, right? There's African American, but there's no like real like in between in the middle, someone Hispanic, just someone with that background,
And here's the thing: sometimes we don't do things because we feel like it's become oversaturated, but that's the difference between the people that got it and the people that do not. The people that got it are able to jump into a system that is oversaturated, and they will survive and
Make a difference, yeah.
outlast. They will outlast the ones that fall off because every bubble will burst, and if you can hold on, you good.
Shy, if you probably look, you're better looking, and you're a woman and you're better looking and stuff like that, you'd probably be a hit by now. It's like,
I probably still have to lie and talk bullshit.
no, but I tell you, because I see your comments, and one of the most, I think overall, in all the years we followed you, people could get sick of your commentary or whatever, and you always tell everybody. But at the end of the day, you're gonna get your number one comments and be like, "How come you don't have more viewers? How come you don't got more subscribers?" You know,
That's the first thing I asked Jay when I came
As-
out of prison. Because let me tell you something. From the very get go, I was like your number one fan. And I told you I was on probably one of your, like, in your earlier days on one of your shows. Remember that, Shy?
Mm-hmm.
And,
Absolutely,
and,
one of our biggest shows.
and I said, I'm your biggest fan. Keep talking your shit because I loved your show. And so as soon as I came out of prison, that was my first question. How many viewers Shy got? How
I'm
many?
like, he got 20 more than when you went in.
Like 15, 15. And two of
You
them
ain't do
talk
shit
shit.
from,
They hit the
yeah,
dislike button. Sometimes they'll come
yeah.
in the live, they'll hit the like button, then take the like
I
back.
told about he got 24, but then a week later he got -4. So he's at 20 plus because you went on his show,
Yeah,
and
but
he did good with me and Pete went on his show. He got like an extra 200.
No.